4 years. 1,460 days I have lived in pain and regret over my husband's death. Everyone told me I should move on, that he was never coming back. But they were wrong. I saw him with my own eyes at the airport. Not a ghost, but a living, breathing man, hand in hand, with a young woman and a child. And when I followed them, the devastating truth behind it all brought me to my knees, leaving me speechless. I stood motionless in the big living room of our house in the American suburbs. It had been 4 years since the day David died, but the corner of the room I had turned into a memorial for him was still carefully kept, with fresh flowers and a large candle. I had just lit the candle, and the small flame flickered weakly over David's photograph. My mother-in-law, Patricia, walked in. I could feel the tension in the air at once. She always looked at me with eyes full of annoyance and criticism. She stood there with her arms crossed, her voice cold and dripping with sarcasm. 4 years, Emily? Are you still standing there lighting candles and crying? Is that candle going to bring my son back? I turned to look at her, trying to stay calm even as the hurt rose inside me. I only wanted to explain what I was doing. I just wanted to light a candle to remember him, Patricia. But those words did nothing. Patricia strode over to the memorial corner and jabbed a finger at David's picture with a sharp, decisive gesture. Who do you think is responsible for his death? You are. If you had given him a child, maybe he would not have been so miserable, would not have thrown himself into his work like a maniac until he died in that accident. This family line might end because of you, Emily. Every word she said was like a knife driven straight into my heart. I felt my chest tighten and my voice tremble with outrage I could not control. Mom, how can you say that? The accident was caused by a technical failure. What does that have to do with the fact that David and I did not have a child? Patricia let out a bitter laugh. I knew that laugh was loaded with deep contempt. A technical failure? A woman who does not know how to keep her husband, who lets him grow tired and disgusted with his life until he makes terrible business decisions. That is what causes technical failures. Look at Hannah, his cousin. She has only been married a few years and her second baby is on the way. And you? Useless. Patricia turned and walked away, leaving me standing there. My hands were shaking as I forced down a choking sob that rose in my throat. My misery was cut short by the sound of my cell phone ringing. It was my assistant, calling to remind me about work and to tell me I had to go to the airport to pick up a client. I drove to Los Angeles International Airport, a place that was always crowded and noisy. I held a sign with the client's name on it and waited at the arrival gate. Even though I had just gone through an emotional shock, I still tried my best to focus on my job. My phone rang again. My assistant reported, Emily, the client is about to come out. It looks like she is with a man and a little boy. I answered automatically, yeah, I see them. Take it easy. I said the words to myself, a desperate attempt to hold on to my professionalism. Suddenly, every bit of focus I had vanished. In the distance, a man stepped out. His tall, lean frame, the way he walked, even the slight stretch of his shoulders after the long flight were completely familiar. He was wearing an elegant suit, walking beside a young woman dressed in very trendy clothes, holding the hand of a little boy. My heart pounded like a drum, so hard I thought it might burst. All the noise around me seemed to fade away. I stood frozen, whispering in stunned disbelief, no, that is not possible. All rational thought collapsed. I let the sign and the bouquet fall to the floor and ran toward him without thinking. I screamed in the middle of the crowd, not caring about the looks people gave me. David! You are David, right? You are alive!" The man turned around. It was the same face I had loved and mourned for 4 long years. But the way he looked at me was ice cold, completely empty. He frowned, and his voice was so unfamiliar it was terrifying. "You have the wrong person. My name is Josh." The young woman beside him, who I would later learn was named Chloe, quickly grabbed his arm, her voice tight with alarm. "Josh, come on, let us go. There are too many strangers here." I could not accept this denial. I grabbed his sleeve, tears pouring down my face. "No, it is me, Emily, your wife. Look at me. Why? Why are you here?" He yanked his arm away, looking at me as if I were some dangerous stalker. "I told you, you have the wrong person. Please stop bothering me and my family." He put an arm around Chloe's shoulders and took the boy by the hand, turning away and quickly disappearing into the crowd. I stood there, rooted to the spot in the noisy airport, only able to mutter under my breath, "Family. Your family? Then what am I?" After the horrifying shock at the airport, I went home in a daze. I collapsed onto the big sofa, my whole body drained. My mind kept spinning with the image of David, or Josh, with that woman and the child. I tried to find a reasonable explanation, but there was nothing except his cruel denial. Just then, Hannah, David's cousin, walked in. She was carrying a basket of fresh fruit, her appearance always sweet but hiding something fake I could never quite name. When she saw me, she spoke up right away, her voice full of false sympathy. "Oh, Emily, you look terrible. Missing David again, right?" "I understand. It is so hard for a widow." I no longer had the strength to respond to such empty comfort. I did not even bother to lift my head. I only said quietly, "Thank you. I am tired." Hannah sat down next to me and patted my hand in a gesture meant to be reassuring, but I could clearly feel the indifference behind it. She went on in a lecturing tone that was really just a sly kind of mockery. "You should let go. David is never coming back. You are still young and pretty. Why not find another man? A woman without a husband is like a car without wheels." What she really meant was that I was useless, incomplete, just like my mother-in-law had said. I was exhausted by all this preaching. I looked Hannah straight in the eye and decided to drop a shocking piece of information just to see how she would react. I needed to know if anyone in this family could see that something was wrong. So I asked her, "Hannah, if I told you I just saw David at the airport, would you believe me?" Hannah let out a laugh, strained and unnatural, almost like a sound meant to cover up her anxiety. She put on a look of doubt and concern for my sanity. "Emily, what are you talking about? You have been working too hard, and now you are seeing things. Maybe you saw someone who looked like David, and your mind filled in the rest. You should go get some rest." Her voice dropped, as if she were sharing a secret, like she was afraid someone might hear how crazy I sounded. Hannah stood up and walked toward the door. Before she left the room, she turned back and added, like a gentle warning, "Women should not think too much. The more you think, the more confused you get, and then you make yourself sick." The door closed. I stayed where I was, but the feeling of collapse was gone. My hands clenched, and a wave of anger and helplessness rose inside me. I realized that no one, not even Hannah, wanted to believe me. Everyone kept telling me I was wrong, that I was crazy, or worse, they were deliberately ignoring the truth. But I knew my eyes could not be mistaken. David, the husband the whole world believed was dead, was alive, and I had to find out the truth. After a sleepless night, I decided to meet Kevin, David's best friend. Kevin was the one who had supported me the most after everything happened, and I believed he was the only person who could truly understand David. We met at a quiet coffee shop in Los Angeles. I sat across from him, feeling restless and on edge. I did not waste time with small talk. I poured out everything I had seen with my own eyes in one breath. My voice shook with emotion, but there was a hard edge of certainty in it. Kevin, I just saw David at the airport. He is alive. Kevin was about to take a sip of his coffee, but when he heard my words, he jerked in surprise and set the cup down hard on the table. Shock was written all over his face. What did you say? Emily, are you okay? I knew his reaction was normal because everyone thought I was crazy. I answered immediately. I am completely clear-headed. He was with a young woman and a little boy. He said his name was Josh, but there is no way I could be wrong. Kevin sighed and looked at me with worry, almost the way someone might look at a patient who needed to be sedated rather than a friend. He tried to calm me down. Listen to me. You have been working too hard. I know you miss David, but I cut him off right away, refusing to hear one more word that dismissed my sanity. This is not a hallucination. I saw him with my own eyes. Seeing how determined I was, Kevin lowered his voice and tried to offer a more reasonable argument. He wanted to use logic to stamp out my desperate hope. Emily, if David were alive, why would he not come home? Why would he pretend to be dead? Think about it. It does not make any sense. But that very absurdity only made me more determined. I tightened my hands around the coffee cup, feeling my resolve grow stronger. That is exactly why I have to find out what is going on. Something is not right here. At that moment, Kevin tried to act reassuring, placing his hand over mine. The gesture gentle, but his tone slightly controlling. You should get some rest. Let me take you home. Everything will be fine. Those words made me suspicious. His concern was too much, too soothing, as if he were trying to hide something. I decided I would not let it go. Back home, I started cleaning out David's old study, hoping to find some small clue. I was carrying an armful of old mementos out of the room when I saw Hannah making coffee in the modern kitchen. Hannah looked at the pile in my arms, and her voice, soft but full of sarcasm, cut through the air. You are going through David's things again. Why not throw it all away and lighten your heart? I knew she was deliberately stirring up my pain and disappointment. I answered her firmly. These are my memories, not something I can just throw away. Hannah let out a small laugh, a smile that did not reach her eyes, carrying only cold calculation. Memories, huh? If you keep clinging to all this, how are you ever going to move on? A widow like you, if you do not find a new man soon, then I turned and stared straight at her, my eyes full of challenge, cutting her off. Then what? Hannah finished her sentence as she handed me a cup of coffee. Then you will be alone for the rest of your life. Think about it. If David were still alive, why would he not come back? Clearly, he does not love you anymore. She was not just mocking me. She was planting doubt in my marriage. Suddenly, a thought flashed through my mind. I asked her, watching every tiny shift in Hannah's expression. Hannah, on the day of David's accident, did you know anything? My sudden question made Hannah freeze for a moment. For a split second, a flash of panic flickered in her eyes, then disappeared. She quickly put her usual expression back on, but I had already seen it. She answered in that fake, innocent tone of hers. Why are you asking me that? What would I know? The National Transportation Safety Board already ruled it an accident. That reaction, even though it was brief, confirmed one thing for me. Hannah was hiding something. Clearly, I was not alone in my suspicion. A week passed after I saw David again at the airport, and after those troubling conversations with Kevin and Hannah. My doubt had hardened into iron determination. I rented an old sedan, did everything I could to keep a low profile, and parked across from a luxurious mansion in Beverly Hills, where David, under the name Josh, was living. I felt like I was playing the role of a private detective. I muttered to myself as I stared at the grand house and the expensive Mercedes G-Class parked by the gate. A mansion in Beverly Hills. A Mercedes G-Class. Yet 4 years ago, you told me your startup company was about to go under and left me buried in debt. I held a camera with a long lens in my hands, just waiting for them to appear. Suddenly, the gate opened. David came out with the young woman, Chloe, and the boy. They were laughing together, the perfect picture of a happy family. It was a scene that should have been mine. I heard Chloe's affectionate voice clearly as she spoke to him. "Josh, this afternoon let us take our son shopping on Rodeo Drive, okay?" David smiled, that tender smile I once believed was only for me. "Sure. Whatever you want, I will buy it for you." My heart throbbed with a sharp, stabbing pain, not only from the betrayal, but from the brazen lie of it all. I pressed the shutter again and again, capturing every one of their happy moments. This was evidence, proof of the lavish life he had built on my suffering and the ruins of my world. I knew that following him was only scratching the surface. I needed physical evidence to prove that David was a fraud. I went back to his old study and started rifling through his bookcase. For 4 years, I had not dared to touch these books. But now, there was no fear left in me, only anger pushing me forward. My hands trembled as I turned each book over, telling myself, I have to find something. Anything. David was always careful. He must have left some kind of trace. Then something unexpected happened. From an old book on the history of modern architecture, one of his favorites, a small USB drive slipped out. I picked it up, murmuring to myself, a USB drive. Why did he hide it so well? The excitement quickly turned into disappointment when I plugged the USB into my laptop. A password prompt popped up on the screen right away. Damn it. A password again? I tried the usual ones, our birthdays, our wedding anniversary, but none of them worked. The screen kept showing the message, incorrect password. It was obvious David had deliberately hidden whatever was on this drive from me. I felt like I was almost touching the truth, but was blocked by a locked door. Stuck, I immediately thought of Kevin. He had been the closest person to David. Maybe he knew the password, or at least how to unlock it. I called Kevin right there from the study. I started the conversation by telling him, "Kevin, I just found one of David's USB drives. Do you know anything about it?" His voice on the other end suddenly grew tense and noticeably unnatural. I caught the change right away. He fired off questions at me. A USB drive? Where did that come from? It is probably nothing important. You should just ignore it. That reaction sounded less like a close friend trying to reassure me, and more like someone who was terrified his secret was about to be exposed. I forced myself to stay calm so I could get more information. But it is locked. Do you know the password? Kevin's voice turned almost sharp, his whole attitude shifting. How would I know? Listen, you should stop this right now. David is dead. Let him rest in peace. I hung up, my mind full of suspicion. Kevin's reaction was no longer ordinary concern. It was clear, obvious panic at the thought that some secret might be exposed. I could not believe that a close friend would react so strangely and tensely, especially when I was only asking about a USB drive. I sat in front of my laptop in the living room, the tiny USB still plugged in beside it like a ticking time bomb that had not gone off yet. Exhaustion and tension were etched into my face after so many sleepless nights. I was trying to find just one more clue. Patricia walked in and looked at me with open annoyance and criticism. Once again, you have been glued to that computer since this morning? The house is a mess. Dinner is not even started. How are you planning to live like this? My mother-in-law had always seen me as useless, even while I was facing a horrifying truth. I answered her, trying to keep my tone serious so she would understand that this was important. I have something important I need to deal with. Patricia did not listen. All she saw in my behavior was defiance. Important what? Digging through David's things again. You really are crazy. He is dead, and you still will not let him rest in peace. Her words grew harsher and harsher, pushing my patience to its limit. I stood up and turned to face her. It was time to voice my doubts, no matter how insane they sounded. Mom, I have doubts about David's death, I think. Patricia's voice hardened, her face flushing red with anger. She did not let me finish. What are you trying to say? Blame someone. I raised him my whole life. You are an outsider. What do you know about him that gives you the right to doubt anything? She had always believed I was not worthy to be her daughter-in-law, that I was an outsider in this family. I decided to bring up the USB, but I found evidence, but Patricia did not give me any chance to explain. She thrust her hand toward the door, her voice ringing out with power and rage. Get out. I do not want to hear your crazy words anymore. Get out of my house right now. I stayed silent, knowing there was no way to talk to her in that moment. The already tense relationship between us only grew worse because of the truth I was trying to bring to light. After that clash with my mother-in-law, I knew I could not do this alone. I reached out to Alex, an old college friend who was a cybersecurity expert and someone I trusted. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop with a private corner. I handed him the USB drive. Alex took it, examined it carefully, and told me, "This USB is pretty well protected, but I can crack it." A spark of hope flared inside me. I spoke to him, my voice urgent. "Please help me. This could be the key." Alex typed for a while, lines of code streaming across the laptop screen. After a few tense minutes, he said, "Got it. I am in. There are some audio files and PDF documents in here." My chest tightened with breathless anticipation. All the truth, all the answers to my 4 years of suffering, were inside this tiny device. I blurted out, "Let me hear them." Alex opened one of the audio files. A voice came through, clear and unmistakable. It was David, the man I had been mourning all this time. "This plan has to be perfect. I fake my death. Kevin will help me." My heart stopped. David and Kevin, they were in it together. Then Kevin's voice came on, cold and calculated. "But the $5 million from that investment fund. Emily will have to carry the debt for us." I sat there in stunned silence. $5 million. They had stolen the money and dumped all the responsibility on me. In the end, David's voice came on again, and this time he was no longer the gentle husband I once knew, but a ruthless betrayer. Forget about her. I already have Chloe and my new life. My ears rang. Everything collapsed completely. 4 years of suffering, crying, and enduring my mother-in-law's insults had all been nothing more than a perfectly staged play David had written so he could live in comfort with his new lover. This truth was not just a shock. It was such a brutal betrayal that it left me numb. The truth on that USB burned through me. I knew I could not wait another second. I drove straight to Kevin's sleek office and stormed in without warning. I stood in front of Kevin's desk, shaking with rage. I accused him on the spot. "Kevin, you and David lied to me." Kevin jerked in terror, the pen in his hand dropping to the floor. "What are you talking about?" He tried to look surprised, but his stammering gave him away. I did not say another word. I took out my phone and played the audio file from the USB, letting David's and Kevin's voices echo through the closed office. Listen, it is all here. You two lied to me for 4 years. Kevin's face changed at once, from pale with fear to flushed red at being exposed. He tried to twist the situation. Emily, you misunderstood. I let out a bitter laugh. Misunderstood. The $5 million you stole, the debt you dumped on me, and David living it up with his mistress. Kevin exhaled heavily, knowing he could not deny it any longer. His expression turned cold, with none of the fake concern he had shown me before. All right. Then here is the truth. David is alive, and you should forget about him. That blunt confession struck right at the deepest part of my pain. My voice tightened, thick with hurt and disbelief as I asked, "Why? How could you be this cruel?" Kevin looked at me with empty eyes and laid out the naked truth. For money, and because David has been tired of you for a long time. Chloe is the one he loves now, and Hannah is involved in this too, so you had better stop. Those words shattered every last illusion and finished off, once and for all, the man I used to call my husband. All I could see now was a con artist standing in front of me. I walked out of Kevin's office in a numb haze. The betrayal was too big to take in, not only from David, but from Kevin, the person I had always considered a friend. I drove to a quiet park and sat alone on a bench. I could not hold back my tears anymore, and they streamed down my face. I took out my phone and called Hannah. I needed to know how deep she was in this. Needed to know if there was anyone else. My voice shook, loaded with accusation. Hannah, did you know David is still alive? Hannah tried to fake surprise. That is such a strange thing to say. I did not let her act any longer. Stop pretending. You knew too, did you not? There was a long silence on the other end. Then Hannah let out a sigh, her voice edged with resentment but also resignation. Fine, I knew. But you should let it go. David does not love you anymore. I hung up without another word. The tears kept coming, not from simple sorrow, but from the surge of hurt and betrayal I could no longer contain. I felt completely isolated, lied to by the entire world. I went back home and walked straight to David's memorial corner. I sat down in front of his picture and the candle. I started talking to him, pouring out everything that had been festering inside me. David, for 4 years I have mourned you. I have lived in pain and regret. But it turns out you are a fraud. You and Kevin betrayed my trust in the cruelest way. I stared at his memorial photo. The look in my eyes slowly shifted from grief to something cold and resolute. I realized it was time to stop playing the victim. I lifted my head and spoke clearly, my voice firm. You think I will stay quiet and accept being the victim? You are wrong. I am going to show everyone the truth behind your perfect accident. I gripped the USB tightly in my hand. My eyes were red from crying, but now they were filled with determination. I knew I was standing at the beginning of a war. David, Kevin, you are both going to pay. I would not allow myself to be a victim for even one more second. I was ready to drag this dark secret into the light. That night, I got an unexpected call from Robert, David's father. He asked to meet me at a small, dim, nearly empty bar around midnight. I went, feeling tense, but also strangely hopeful. Robert was already there, and he looked older and more worn out than I remembered. He started talking, his voice low and heavy. I knew you would come to me. I have suspected something for a long time. His admission stunned me. He knew. Pain and anger surged up inside me. Why did you not say anything? You let me live in a lie for 4 whole years. I could not believe someone in the family had stayed silent for so long. Robert lowered his head, his face twisted with guilt. I am sorry, but he is still my son, my own flesh and blood. I could not bring myself to expose him. I understood a father's love, but that silence had destroyed my life. I pressed the cruelty of what they had done, but they lied to everyone, and they left me with a massive debt. Robert nodded, his eyes red. He truly was remorseful and ashamed. I know how hard it has been for you. From now on, I will stand on your side. Whatever you need me to do, just say it. In that moment, I felt I was no longer alone. At last, someone in David's family was willing to stand on the side of truth and justice. Robert's support gave me a huge push to keep going with this fight, to expose what really happened. After I had my father-in-law's backing, I knew it was time to make my final move. I drove to the luxury mansion in Beverly Hills where David was living under the name Josh. I parked the rental car a short distance away and had been waiting since early morning. The moment David stepped out through the gate, I blocked his path. Annoyance flashed clearly across David's face when he saw me. He kept up his act as Josh. You are here to bother my family again? I already told you, you have the wrong person. I stood in front of him and refused to move. Your family? What about me, your legal wife? David. Chloe, the young woman, came running out of the house, her voice tight with fear and alarm. Josh, get her out of here now. Our son is scared. I stared straight at Chloe, my eyes full of contempt. I wanted to warn her about the man she was with. You really think you have landed yourself a decent man? If he can lie to his wife and fake his own death, he will have no problem lying to you too. David tried to stay calm, his face tightening with irritation. I do not know what you are talking about. My name is Josh. Please stop harassing my family. I knew it was time to play my trump card. I pulled a blown-up photo from my bag, a close-up shot of the distinctive scar on his hand. It was the scar he got from a cut on the night of our engagement party. Then what is this? The scar you got that night at our engagement party. Just a look-alike who happens to have the exact same scar. David froze for a moment, panic flickering in his eyes as his confidence vanished. That is. He could not get another word out. I took another step forward, holding up my phone with the audio file Alex had helped me unlock. And this, your voice talking with Kevin about the $5 million and the plan to fake your death. How long are you going to keep denying it? David was completely rattled. He pulled me off to the side and lowered his voice so Chloe could not hear. Fine, you win. I had no choice. I got tangled up in debts with some very dangerous people, and our partners threatened to kill my whole family. I faked my death to protect everyone. He was still trying to dress up his cruelty as some kind of noble sacrifice. I stared into his eyes, trying to read how much of that was true, then shook my head and forced my face into a mask of utter collapse. Protect? You call this brutal lie protection? My voice broke as I went on. Fine, I understand. You did it to stay alive. I will go. I will not bother your new family anymore. Chloe cut in right away, her tone sharp with suspicion and threat. Wait, what are you planning to do? Did you come here alone? Or did you tell someone? She glanced around us, clearly on edge. David flinched, tightening his grip on my hand, his expression tense. Who did you tell? Did you come here with anyone? This was the moment to put our little performance into action. I pretended to be terrified, yanked my hand back, and stepped away. My voice shook like that of someone completely broken. No, I came alone. I just wanted to hear the truth from you. Now I know. I wrapped my arms around my head, my expression twisted in absolute anguish. All right, I get it. You did what you had to do. I will leave. I will not bother your new family anymore. Chloe, still wary but calmer now, said, You had better keep that promise. Do not make us deal with you. I nodded and lowered my head to hide the resolve in my eyes. I turned and hurried away, my shoulders trembling, playing the part of a woman who had finally been crushed and given up. I walked fast, without looking back, and only when I was completely out of their sight did I stop. I was breathing hard as I wiped away the fake tears and pulled out my phone to check the audio file that had been recording the entire confrontation. I quickly went back to my rental car, parked not far away. I pulled out my phone and stopped the recording app. I muttered to myself as I listened again to the audio I had just captured. Good. His confession is right here. Together with the USB, it is enough. I was just about to drive off when I suddenly saw Hannah slip in through the gate of the mansion, moving in a sneaky, furtive way. Curiosity flared up in me. I quietly followed from a distance and hid behind a large ornamental bush near the living room window, which was open. I could hear them arguing clearly. Hannah's voice rang out, thick with greed and anger. No way! I deserve a bigger share! David, you cannot keep it all for yourself! David snapped back, irritated. Shut up! Do you want to ruin everything? Then Kevin's voice came in. I had no idea when he had gotten there, but he was trying to keep things under control. Both of you be quiet, all right? The money is right here. Just divide it up, and then we can all walk away. And finally, Chloe's shrill voice joined the fight. Wait, I should get the biggest share. I have had to live with him for 4 years. If I do not, I will go straight to the FBI. I let out a long sigh and quietly pulled back. Everything was crystal clear now. They were not victims, and they were not being threatened by anyone. All of them were just a pack of wolves fighting over their meal. I sat in the car, gripping my phone with the recording on it and the USB drive in my other hand. The evidence was complete. There was no longer any doubt about what they had done. It was time to end this disgusting show. I dialed Robert's number, my voice filled with resolve. Dad, we need to go to the police right away. I have enough evidence to put every one of them in jail. The next morning, Robert and I were at the office of an FBI special agent. I brought the USB drive and the phone with all the recordings, feeling lighter but also tightly wound with nerves. At last, the truth was being brought into the light of justice. We sat across from a female FBI agent whose face was set in a serious expression. She began the questioning. Ms. Miller, are you certain about this evidence? I answered firmly, with no hesitation left in me. Absolutely. I have recorded conversations where they admit everything, the transfer documents from the USB, and Robert's statement. Robert immediately confirmed it as well. I confirm all of it. My son David and Kevin deliberately committed fraud and staged his death. The agent looked at me. She could see I had gone through a brutal psychological battle. She asked, her voice carrying real concern. We will take it from here. Are you afraid they will try to retaliate? I met her eyes, and there was no room left inside me for fear. I had already survived the worst of their cruelty. I answered, I am not afraid anymore. The truth needs to come out. My decision is not just to punish David. It is to finally free myself. 2 days later, I got an update from the FBI. They had been tracking David, Kevin, and Hannah, and had discovered their plan to run. I stood at a distance, watching from Los Angeles International Airport, the same place where I had first seen David alive again. David, Kevin, and Hannah were rushing to board a flight to a country they thought would be safe. As they walked through the security checkpoint, a team of FBI agents moved in fast and blocked their way. One of the agents held up his badge, his voice ringing out, firm and clear. "Stop right there, David Miller. You are under arrest for federal fraud and evading the law." David, still clinging to his fake identity, lashed out in protest. "You have the wrong person. My name is Josh." The agent did not give him any room to wriggle out. "We are not mistaken, David Miller. We have all the evidence we need." Immediately, Kevin and Hannah started scrambling to save themselves. Kevin shouted, "I did not know anything. He was the one behind all of it." Hannah, her face drained of color, burst into tears. "I was forced into this. Please, have mercy on me." While the agents were restraining him, David glanced through the crowd and saw me standing there. The way he looked at me was filled with hatred and a sense of betrayal. David ground out the words, You are cruel." I stepped closer, facing him calmly. My voice was clear and strong, with no trace of weakness left in it. "No, cruel is what you are. You are the one who lied to the wife who lived by your side for 8 years. That was my final judgment on him." A few days later, I was informed that Chloe had also been arrested while trying to run and was now giving her statement. She was brought into an FBI interrogation room. I knew she would try anything to save herself. In the interrogation room, Chloe started talking to the agents. "I am just a victim. David Miller lied to me. I did not know anything about the fraud. The FBI agent was not so easily fooled. But you lived off the money from that fraud." Chloe tried to justify what she had done. "I only loved him. I was naive, and he took advantage of me." The agent continued to lay out the evidence. "We have proof that you helped move the money and hide illegal assets." Cornered, Chloe immediately turned to blaming everyone else. It was all David and Kevin's idea. I am innocent. I knew that Chloe, just like everyone else in this mess, was nothing more than a greedy, selfish wolf trying to dodge responsibility. I felt genuinely grateful that I was no longer tied to any of them. I later heard that once everything came to light, David and Kevin were both given heavy sentences for federal fraud and evading the law. Hannah was also sentenced for aiding them and helping to hide their illegal assets. There was no way left for any of them to deny what they had done. The people who had walked over me to live in comfort for 4 long years finally had to pay for their cruelty. 2 weeks after the sentence took effect, I received a call from David's lawyer. David was asking to see me. He had written a letter by hand, the same handwriting as before, only shakier now, probably from his hands trembling. In the letter, he begged for a chance to say one last thing. Said he regretted everything. Said he only wanted to see again the woman who had once loved him. I did not respond. What I did not expect was this. He also begged to see his mother, Patricia, the woman who had once seen him as the greatest pride of her life, who had trampled me with her words without mercy, who had accused me of being the reason her son had died such a tragic death. That day, I went to a quiet park not far from the prison. I happened to see Patricia there. She was sitting alone on a stone bench, her back hunched, her gray hair blown into a mess by the wind. Her hands were shaking as she held David's letter, her eyes empty. I was about to walk away because I did not want to face any more of her bitterness, but she called out softly, "Emily." I stopped. I did not turn around, but she had already stood up and was slowly walking toward me. She spoke, her voice trembling. "My child. Today I finally know. It was David. He faked his death." I stayed silent and let her face that horrible truth on her own. Her voice was hoarse, breaking apart with every word. For 4 years, I have lived in agony, believing my son died a horrible death. I thought I was a mother who had lost her child, so I had the right to hate. So I poured all that pain onto you. I was wrong. I turned back to look at her. I no longer saw a proud, overbearing mother-in-law, but a broken woman who had just lost the son she had blindly worshipped. She went on, every word full of torment. I thought you were the one who died unfairly. I never imagined he was alive, living in comfort, leaving you to bear the shame. All these years I called you useless, said you were a curse. But the one who truly brought this curse on us was him. It was me who was blind enough to believe in him. She collapsed to her knees, her whole body shaking with waves of regret. I looked at her for a long time. I knew her pain was real, and that this punishment hurt more than any insult she had ever thrown at me. I simply said, "What is done, Mom. Do not throw all the blame onto the time that is already gone. I only hope that from now on you will live honestly with your own heart." I walked away. Behind me, I could hear her sobbing. It was not the cry of a mother-in-law, but the cry of a mother who had just seen the true face of the son she had once protected at all costs. And I kept walking, without looking back. Because the past had ended, the truth had come out, and the ones who needed to face the consequences could no longer escape. A year passed. I moved to New York and started a new job in the art world. I stood in an art gallery in the city, feeling more confident and radiant than ever. I had rebuilt my finances, paid off the debts David left behind, and found myself again. My best friend asked, "Emily, what do you think of the exhibition?" I smiled, feeling a lightness in my heart. "It is wonderful. I feel like this new life is so easy and free. Freedom is the most amazing feeling." Right then, a well-dressed man walked over. He looked at me with a surprised expression, then said, "Excuse me, but you look very familiar. Did you study at Rhode Island School of Design, RISD?" I was a little surprised. "Yes, but..." He smiled, his face open and friendly. "I am Daniel. We were in the same year. It is really nice to see you again." I looked at him and felt the warmth and sincerity in his smile. For the first time in a very long while, I gave a genuine smile, not a forced one. Same here. That unexpected meeting felt like a small, joyful sign life was sending my way. A few weeks later, Daniel and I were seeing each other more often. We sat together in a small cafe in Brooklyn. We talked about life, about art, and about the challenges we had both been through. He looked at me, his eyes full of understanding. "You seem like you have been through a lot." I was no longer hiding from my past, but I had learned how to set it behind me. Everyone has their own past. What matters is the present and the future. Daniel nodded, his eyes filled with respect. "I understand. Sometimes we need courage to keep going." I looked out the window, where the morning light was pouring in, bringing warmth and a sense of hope. I really had been brave. I said, "That is right, and I am ready for a new journey." I held my cup of coffee and let its gentle aroma wrap around me. Sunlight streamed through the glass, carrying hope and warmth. Life was moving forward, and I had learned how to live for myself. I had finally escaped the shadow of all those lies, and now I was ready for the new dawn of my life. I hope this story inspires you. If you feel cheated, belittled, or taken for granted, remember that you deserve the truth and a better life. Stand up and never accept being the victim. If you feel that my story, my journey to uncover the truth and take my revenge, means something to you, please support my channel, Revenge Diary. Like this video so I know you are walking this path with me. Leave a comment below and share your thoughts about betrayal and the struggle to overcome it. And do not forget to subscribe to Revenge Diary to follow more stories of truth brought into the light. Thank you for listening. Be strong and live for yourself.